players out there, because at one point in my tennis career, I was where you are right now. I played the 12 and unders, I played the 14 and unders, and I had a dream. And to be honest with you, a lot of the things that I accomplished in my tennis career, I know you guys want to accomplish. I happen to play Davis Cup for my country. I know many of you want to play Davis Cup or Fed Cup for your countries. I was number 11 in the world. I was a professional tennis player. How many of you want to be a professional tennis player? How many of you want to play college tennis? How many of you want to be top 5 in the country in your age group? Or top 5 in the world? Well, those are all things that I accomplished in my career. So what I hope today is that I can say something to give you a little piece of advice, a little piece of knowledge that I have that'll help you in your careers. Not only today, not only next year, but throughout your junior career, throughout your college career, and throughout your pro career. And I think the first thing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys an opportunity after I'm done. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions, because when I'm up here, for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about, and it might not be exactly what you want to hear, but so I want to give you the opportunity to ask me a few questions, and hopefully I can answer a few questions that'll help you better move you along in your careers, if that's okay. But the first thing I want to talk about is your attitude. Oh yeah, you've heard your coaches talk about that before. You've heard your parents talk about your attitude. I think one of the things you can do to reach the success levels that you want to reach, honestly, is your attitude, how you approach the game of tennis. And when I talk about attitude, I'm also talking about the effort that you put in on the tennis court. When you're out on the tennis court, how many of you, by a raise of hand, how many of you give 100% when you're out there on the tennis court? How many of you give 100% in your matches? Well, when I think of attitude, on the court and off the court, I think of effort. If you want to be the best player you can be, you can't give 60% or 70 or 80% during practice and then expect yourself to get out on the court and give 100%. It's just not going to happen. Your attitude towards your coach, your attitude towards your parents, your attitudes towards your fellow competitors goes a long ways towards your success in the game of tennis. So giving that 100% effort out here in the Orange Bowl when it starts tomorrow, that is so important. It's especially important when, let's say you're down a set and a break. How many of you have ever tanked a match? You're down 6-2, 3-0, and you're just like, forget it. I can't win this match. What about you? You ever tank a match? The guy behind you shaking his head, yes. Well, let me tell you something. Giving a 75% effort or tanking a match is the easiest thing in the world to do. Anyone can give up, anyone can quit. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. But it is not easy when things are tough to just bear down and continue to give a strong effort. So when you guys are playing, you guys and girls are playing over the next week, I would love to see you and hear stories about how no matter what the score is, you were giving the best effort, giving your absolute best effort. I think back of a story when I was in Wimbledon. When I was in Wimbledon in 1996, in the semifinal, I was actually down 5-1. But actually it was 5-1 in the fifth set. And that's a classic example where I could have just given up. How many times have you been down 5-1 and actually came back and won the match? Doesn't happen very often. One little girl, of course, raises her hand and says, I did it. Well, that's good, because that means you didn't give up. But I didn't give up, and I wound up winning that semifinal match at Wimbledon, 8-6 in the 5th set, and put me in the finals of Wimbledon. Somewhere that I know some of you want to be at someday. That's the attitude that I'm talking about. Plus, you know what? Your attitude, that positive attitude on the tennis court, that is what your coaches want to see out of you. That is what your parents want to see out of you. That is what college scouts, when they're at this tournament, when they're at the Orange Bowl, when college scouts are looking at you as players, you know what they want to see? They want to see that player that has the positive attitude. Even the guy who's walking in late right now, they want to see him with the positive attitude. That's right, I called you out, Fila. I saw you coming in late. You know, when you're out there, let's say you're being recruited. I played tennis at the University of Michigan, and one of the greatest universities in the world. I loved playing college tennis. And you know what? One of the things that college coaches look for, not only do they want quality tennis players, but they want quality individuals on their team. They want players with good attitudes on their team, because they know they're going to be positive for the team. They don't want the players that's a great tennis player but has a bad attitude. So when you're out there playing this week, just think about having a good attitude on the court, giving 100% effort. That is what your coaches want to see. That is what's going to allow you to get the best out of your games. One of the things I always did when I was on tour, I was always one to set goals for myself. And I would imagine that many of you know what setting a goal is. But I would encourage you to set goals in your tennis lives, in your careers, but also set goals maybe even in your personal lives, or for something you want to accomplish in school, for example. Maybe on the tennis court, your goal could be, because I'm quite sure there are some players out here who double fault 8 or 10 times a match. You coaches out there, is that true? Look at the back there, I see some people shaking their heads. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe your goal is to improve your serve. Maybe your goal, if it's school, maybe you're a C student and your goal is to become a BC student. Doesn't matter what the goal is. Take the opportunity to get with your coaches, get with your parents, sit down by yourself, and set some goals for yourself, things that you want to accomplish. Maybe you want to win the Orange Bowl, and that could be a goal for you. Maybe you want to be a top 10 player in your country. Maybe you want to be a top 10 player in the state of Florida. Whatever your goal is, set that goal. But that's only the first step. The first step is setting the goal. The second step is you have to make a plan for that goal. Okay? One of the goals that I have, when I first turned pro, I think the day I turned pro, I was ranked about 200 in the world. Okay? My first goal was to reach top 100 in the world. That was my goal. Okay? And I had a plan. And for me, that plan was, and I had it written out. This is what I'm going to do on the court. This is what I'm going to do on the track. This is what I'm going to do in the gym. Okay? I had a specific plan that I had for how I was going to get to top 100 in the world. I'm sure you know what your goal might be? You have a player that just beats you all the time? That might be one of your goals. You know what? I want to beat that kid because she just keeps beating me every time I play her. That could be one of your goals. But you then have to set out a plan to achieve that goal. It's not good enough to just have the goal and say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna reach this goal. You have to have a plan for that goal. And like I said, that is where your coaches and your parents can come in and help you tremendously in setting those goals. But it's not good enough to just set the goal. it's not good enough to just have a plan for the goal. Then you have to be willing to implement the plan. And when I say implement the plan, you have to be willing to do what it takes to reach that goal. How many of you are willing, for those of you who maybe you want to be top 10 in the world rankings, how many of you are willing to do what it takes to reach that goal? That's right, I'm looking right at you. How many of you are willing to do what it takes to reach that goal? For me, one of my first goals was top 100 in the world. I was willing to do anything it took. It didn't matter how many hours I had to practice, how many miles I had to run, how many hours I needed to spend in the gym. I was willing to do whatever it took to achieve that goal. It's kind of the same thing in school. And this might even be an easier example. Let's say you have a 2.5 GPA and you want to get it to a 3. What kind of things can you do in, let's say, your math class that you have a C in? What kind of things can you do to actually achieve that goal? Well, you might say, okay, one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to move from the back of the class to the front of the class because everyone knows you learn more in the front because there's not as many distractions. And then you might say, well, I'm going to participate in class more. And I'm going to, along with all the other studying I'm going to do, I'm going to specifically study that particular math subject an extra 15 minutes every single day. Those are specific goals. And then if you do it, if you implement those goals, then you can actually achieve it. It's the same thing on the tennis court. Whether you're trying to improve your forehand or your serve, whatever part of your game you're trying to improve, you have to have a goal. You have to have a plan. You have to be willing to implement the plan, and then you have to want it. You have to want it so bad, and have to have a desire so strong that you're willing to do whatever it takes to achieve those goals. When I was in high school, a typical day for me of training is I'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'd go for a run, and then I'd practice from 7 to 9 on the tennis court. I'd go to school, I'd come back home, have a bite to eat, go practice again from 4 to 6 in the afternoon. And then at 7 o'clock that evening, I'd go for another run. That was a very typical day for me, for me when I was in high school. But that's what my coach and I got together. That's what we felt we needed and I needed to achieve my goals. But I wanted it that bad. And I wanted to be top 100 in the world that bad that I was willing to do whatever it took. It didn't matter what it was. I was willing to do whatever it took. But then, in that first year, my first year on the tour, I got to the top 100 in the world. In fact, I finished that year number 92 in the world. I got the ATP Rookie of the Year. And then I set another goal. I said I wanted to be top 50. But everything I did that first year, I knew I was going to have to up my game. I knew I was going to have to up my level. I knew I was going to have to work that much harder if I was wanted to go from 100 in the world to 50 in the world. So I set more goals, and I got with my coach and figured out, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do every day to accomplish my goals. And I was willing to put forth the effort every single day to achieve it. And I did. And once I reached 50, I said, okay, now it's top 20. And then I got to top 20, and I set another goal. I set a goal for top 10. But you know what? That was one goal I never reached. I never got to top 10 in the world. But I did get to number 11. And I'll be honest with you, number 11 in the world sucks. Okay? No one dreams about being number 11 in the world. You dream about being top 10 or number 1, which is top 10. But I got to 11. But you know what? You know what I tell people? That was one goal I never reached, but had a great time trying to get there. And I think that's what you're going to find. If you're willing to put in the time and put in the effort, you're going to reach a lot of your goals. And you're never going to look back on, this wasn't worth it. Geez, why did I put in all that time? No, you're going to appreciate that time and effort that you put into it. Another one of my goals was to play Davis Cup. And when I was playing Davis Cup, that was actually a pretty tough goal. At 11 in the world, you'd think you'd play Davis Cup for any country in the world, right? But there were a few guys that were going to play Davis Cup before me. Their names were Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi, Jim Courier, Michael Chang. I mean, these are all guys that were ranked ahead of me. I was 11 in the world, and I was like the 5th guy on the totem pole to play Davis Cup. But that was one of my goals. I reached it. I had the opportunity to play Davis Cup 3 times, and it was cool. One of my goals was to win a Grand Slam. Anyone ever dream of winning a Grand Slam? You ever think about it? That was my goal too. I remember going to the US Open when I was 10 and 11 years old and watching all these players. And that became my dream, to win a Grand Slam. I never won a Grand Slam. It stunk. But you know what? I was in the finals of one. I almost won one. So you know what? I don't look back on it and say, yeah, I wish I hadn't put in all that time I put in. You know what? It was great getting to the finals of Wimbledon. And I guarantee you, there's some of you here, you're going to play college tennis. There's some of you here who one day will win the Orange Bowl. There's some of you here today who will be professional tennis players. But who is it going to be? Which one of you are willing to put in the time and effort? Which one of you are willing to put in the hard work? It will be frustrating. I'll tell you right now, it's going to be frustrating. For example, some of you are going to lose in the first round of this tournament. With the exception of 4 of you, everyone is going to lose next week. There's only going to be 4 winners. Okay? But if and when you lose, does that frustrate you and make you want to quit, or does it make you want to work harder? That was one of the things about me and my attitude when I was on the tour. When I lost a match, it made me want to work even harder. When I lost a match, oftentimes, you know what I would do? I would walk straight off of the match court, grab my coach and say, let's go hit some balls. I want to practice some more. There were a couple of things I did in that match that I didn't like. We need to go hit some balls. Because I was willing to do anything. I was willing to do whatever it took to succeed. So I ask you again, how badly do you want it? How badly do you want success? And if you want it bad enough, you'll be willing to do whatever it takes that's legal. You'll be willing to do whatever it takes to succeed. And then, you know what you have to do? You have to constantly be willing to recommit to your goals. And what I mean by that is this. There's going to be some times like you might set a goal to achieve something, and you start working your plan, and then all of a sudden, maybe, I don't know, whatever, you go on vacation, or you get a little sick and you take a week off, and all of a sudden it's time to get back training, and you know that goal isn't as strong in your mind, and you don't start focusing on that goal. You have to constantly recommit to your goals if you want to achieve. That's going to be so important, recommitting to your goals. One of the most important things, though, have fun. You know, when I played on tour, it was frustrating, it was hard, there were times where it didn't look like I was having fun, there were times where I'd break rackets, I'd throw rackets, I'd hit balls over the fence. Believe me, it happened. But you know what, there was nothing else I would have rather been doing than playing tennis and trying to see how good I could get. There was nothing better than being out on the court in front of 10,000 people playing a tennis match. Or there's nothing better, to the young lady up here in the blue flip-flops who's still not paying attention, there's nothing better than being in the finals of Wimbledon and 1 billion people around the world are watching. That's pretty cool. Oh, see, she just noticed that I was looking at her. But that is pretty cool. That's fun. So I want all of you, when you're playing tournaments, when you're in practice, yes, it's going to be frustrating, but I want you to have fun. Do you agree? Tennis is so much fun. Certainly it's more fun when you're winning, without question. But tennis is so much fun. I think the last thing I want to talk about is, I talked about kind of my approach to tennis with setting goals and how important I think attitude is. The other thing that I think is so important? Because oftentimes we might set goals and we have a plan for the way things are going to happen, and it doesn't quite happen the way we think it's going to happen. Okay? When I was in 18 and unders, which happened to be my best year in junior tennis, I remember I was being recruited by colleges, and I was going to go to college, and the guys that I was playing against and beating, they had all gone pro. And I'm thinking, wait, Andre Agassi, he went pro early, he didn't go to college, but I'm going to college. Jim Courier went to college, went straight to the pros. Pete Sampras and Michael Chang, they all went straight to the pros, and here I am going to college. You know what I realized is, whatever track they were on, that wasn't my track. I would have loved to have been on that track, but you know what? My career took me to the University of Michigan. My education, and this is very, very important, because oftentimes I see junior players that are so focused on becoming great tennis players that they kind of forget about their education a little bit. Your education is so important. I wouldn't be here today talking to you. I wouldn't have been the tennis player that I was. I wouldn't have been the tennis player that I was if it hadn't been for my education. Okay? My education allowed me to get into the University of Michigan, where I went for 2 years on a full tennis scholarship. That's where, all those players I just named, while they were on the tour, making a great living, and I'm watching them, and it inspired me, but I was in college, getting my education and playing tennis and becoming a better student and a better tennis player. That's the path that my career took me. I can't tell you enough how important focusing on your education, being the best student you can be, and then also being the best tennis player you can be. Because some of you might sit here and say, you know what, I want to go pro when I'm 16. I want to go pro when I'm 18. Well, you know what? That's a great goal to have, but it might not happen quite like you think it's going to happen. Okay? I personally think going to college and playing college tennis is a great goal, is a great thing to aspire to, because you'll have a great time playing college tennis. And I know some of you will. But if you become the best student you can be and become the best tennis player you can be, and you can do both. You don't have to sacrifice one to get the other. You can do both. If you really focus on both and set goals in both, then I think you are being the best player you can be, the best student you can be, the best young adult you can be. And believe me, your coaches and your parents, they're definitely going to appreciate it. I can't, I'm sitting here looking out amongst all of you, and I remember being in tournaments, listening to people speak, and it was like, oh geez, shut up, let's go, I'm hungry. But I'm looking out on you right now, and I'm thinking, you know what? I was right where you were just a few short years ago. I was 12 years old, 14 years old, just dreaming about winning the Orange Bowl and dreaming about playing professional tennis someday. So I'm kind of right there. I didn't have texting. We didn't have smartphones like the young lady here in the front row who's texting. We didn't have those when I was little. But I want you to keep those dreams alive. And I wish all of you the best. And when you're out there playing in the Orange Bowl next week, do a couple of things for me. Play as hard as you can. Play as hard as you can every single day. Play fair. Play with integrity. Whoever plays this kid right here from Israel first round, don't cheat. Don't cheat him and don't you cheat them either, okay? Yeah, don't do that.
Sorry.
And when you're out there, have fun, all right? Have a great time. You guys have such a great opportunity right now. You get to do what you love to do. You're playing the sport of tennis. You're playing in one of the best and biggest junior tennis tournaments in the world. This is a great opportunity for you. Take advantage of it. Don't squander this opportunity. There are so many players who wish they could be here playing this tournament, and they're not. But you know what? All of you are. You're here. This is a special opportunity for you. So take advantage of this opportunity. Take advantage of what your coaches and your parents and your federations are giving you, because they're here for one reason. They're here to help you succeed. They're here to help you become the best players that you can be. So it's going to take a lot of your effort, but you know what? Your coaches and your parents, believe it or not, they're actually very smart people. Okay? They want what's best for you. Okay? You might not think so. You might not think they know what they're talking about, but trust me, they do. And I see these two smiling. You know, she knows what she's talking about, right? Okay, she actually wants what's best for you. You might not think so, so stop giving her grief, okay? Is that your mom? Stop giving your mom grief, okay? Does he throw his racket? Stop throwing your racket. I was just talking about having a good positive attitude on the court. Quit throwing your racket, okay? Does he give 100% effort? What? Are you, come here. Come up here. Come here. Yes, come here. All right, where are you from?
India.
Nice. Talk on the mic.
India.
And what's your name?
Ahmed.
Ahmed, what age group? What age group are you in?
14.
You're in the 14s, so you like to throw your racket around every once in a while? No? Not anymore. Hey, hey Jody, where's our tournament director? Our tournament director is right there. Hey Jody, can you just keep an eye on this guy right here? Make sure he doesn't throw his racket at all. And if he does, just give him a point penalty right away. So what about your effort on the tennis court? Do you give 100% during practice and matches, or are you kind of like a 75, 80% type of guy?
100%.
Are you lying to us right now?
No.
You're not lying. So every day you give 100%. All right. Tell me one of your goals. Sorry to put you on the spot like this, but I have a microphone and I can do it. So tell me one of your goals that you have. What do you want to achieve?
To win this tournament.
To win this tournament. That is a great goal. Anyone else here have that goal of winning this tournament? Good luck with that. So you think you might play college tennis someday or pro tennis someday?
Both.
Both, really? Where do you want to go? I personally suggest University of Michigan, but where are you thinking?
Stanford.
Stanford, go blue. Stanford University, huh? Now, Stanford University is a great university, a very tough academic university, a very challenging athletic university. So you think you have what it takes in you to get the grades and the tennis to get into Stanford?
Of course.
Now, right, and if you're 14 right now, so you have I'd say about 4 more years of hard work and hard academic work to get to Stanford University. I do know the head coach, and I can actually put in a good word for you, but I have to talk to your mom first.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll talk to your mom first. And I'll see how you're doing over the next couple of years, and that'll determine if I actually put in a good word for you or not. Do you have anything else you want to say to your constituents?
finally got my mom, so thank you.
All right, buddy. See ya. Now he'll pay attention. But Ahmed probably has a question, so you want to ask the first one? You can ask the first one in a second. Let me just finish by saying I'm very, very passionate about talking to young people, because when I look out, I understand and realize the potential that so many of you have inside. And it's up to me, it's up to your coaches, it's up to your parents to help you realize that potential and keep you on track and make you work hard and make you stay focused and disciplined. And if you can do all of those things, and believe me, you're not going to do it as well today as you're going to be doing it at Stanford University, but if you stay on track, all of you will be amazed at the things you can accomplish. You will be amazed at the tournaments you win, the places you go, the people you meet, and hopefully eventually the prize money you make. Okay? Playing professional tennis and playing college tennis for me was the dream existence. It was something I loved to do, and there was nothing more that I would have rather have done than play college and professional tennis. And I cannot wish that dream, or I can only wish that all of you have the opportunity to fulfill that dream as well. So I'm going to wish you all great luck in the coming week here at the Orange Bowl. I want to wish you all a lot of success in your individual careers, because I know you have it in you to be successful. Thank you very much. You guys have a great time. So if there are any questions, and I think Ahmed had the first question, I'll take a couple of questions, just a handful, so we can keep moving along. You had a question, Ahmed?
Why did you lose the Wimbledon final?
Wait, why did what?
Why did you lose the Wimbledon final?
Why did I lose the Wimbledon final? Remember when I said I was going to put in a good word for you at Stanford? Yeah, I'll put in a word, all right. You know, why'd you lose your last match you lost? Oh, you're undefeated in 2012? Well, you know what? I ran into a guy, Richard Krychek, who I saw here earlier today, and I'll be honest with you, he served me off the court. You know, I had a good run going into the tournament, and you know what? All I can say, I went out there, I gave 100%. I had my game plan. I tried to implement my game plan. He just flat out played better than me. And when it was over, I shook his hand. I said, congratulations. And you know what? That's all I can do. You know, all you can do is in these matches is give 100%. And believe me, when you're on center court at Wimbledon, you give 100%. There's no question. So that's why I lost. What was my greatest problem? My greatest problem in my career was Pete Sampras. Because I'm 0-7 against him. He was my greatest problem. But did you mean not money? Oh, I love winning money. But the greatest problem in my career, tennis is so competitive. Because everyone wants a lot of the same thing. And you're always trying to figure out a new training technique, new nutrition idea. Do I practice more? Do I practice less? How much rest do I need? And you're always trying to figure out that new idea or technique to succeed. And one of the toughest things was trying to figure out what causes me to play good. Because there were some times where I felt like I had a horrible week of practice, and then I'd literally go out and win the tournament. And there's sometimes I've had a really good week of practice, and you get to matches, and you're thinking, well, what in the world is going on? I just had a great week of practice, and I feel like I can't walk and chew gum and hit a tennis ball at the same time. But that might have been the biggest challenge, trying to figure out, and if you could bottle it and sell it for a nickel, you'd be a billionaire. You know, that's the challenge that every athlete has, how to produce your best tennis at the greatest moments. Yes? What made me earn more money, tennis or education? I'll say that's actually a very good question. Tennis, your window for earning money in tennis is probably, for me, was 10 years, okay? Your ability to earn money in tennis for me was 10 years. I retired after 2 knee surgeries. Okay, remember when I talked about playing in the Wimbledon final and the Olympics? That was the pinnacle of my career. 7 months later, I had my first knee surgery, and that was the beginning of the end of my career, believe it or not. I'm thinking I was here, and 7 months later, I was heading downwards. So I made a lot of money in my professional career playing tennis, but no matter how good you do, your window is very short. So I retired when I was 30 years old. I'd like to think from 30 to, let's say, 65 or 70 years old, I'd like to think I'm going to make a lot more money from 30 to 70 or 30 to 60 than I did from 20 to 30. Okay? So believe me, and you can, statistics show it, you can make a lot more with your mind than with your body hitting a tennis ball. But that's not to deter you. That's to encourage you to do the best you can on the tennis court. But also your education is so, so important. Someone had their, yes, sure. What age was I when I realized I wanted to become a tennis professional? It was probably, and this is actually kind of a cool story. I was probably about 10 or 11 years old, something like that. I went to the US Open, and we used to sit in the old stadium, Louis Armstrong Stadium, and we'd sit at the top of the stadium, and my dad said, you know what, you can play on that court someday. You can come back and play on that very court. And the funny thing is about 21 years, I was 21 years old, so about 11 years after I actually was at the US Open, I walked onto the stadium court at the US Open, and I looked up and I thought back to sitting in the nosebleed section, and I hadn't thought about what my dad had said in over a decade. And I thought back, and he said, you know what, someday you can play on that court. So someday, you, and some of you will be playing on center court at the US Open. But I was about probably 10 or 11 years old when I first thought I might want to be a professional tennis player. Any other question? I thought there was one right here. Yes?
How important was college tennis in your career, and how important is college, would you say, for everyone to think about in terms of turning pro versus...
How important was college tennis in my career? Everyone has to make that own personal decision whether or not they go to college. And I would say I would not have been the player that I was, and was being the operative word. I would not have been that player if it had not been for the University of Michigan and having the opportunity to play there for 2 years and becoming one of the best players in the country. Because at 18 years old, even though my other fellow players were turning pro, my game wasn't ready, physically I wasn't ready, emotionally I wasn't ready to turn pro. So for me, college tennis was, for my tennis career, making the decision to go to college was probably the single best decision I ever made. And then the second best decision I made was probably making the decision to leave college after my sophomore year. For me, 2 years was the perfect amount. I finished my sophomore year #1 in the country, and then I left, and it was the perfect time. My coach actually told me not to leave, but I went against his advice, and fortunately it worked out for me. So that's a great question. Any other questions? Oh, there you go, young man.
You said you want to be the best player then. Did you ever thought that you can do that?
Did I ever think that I could be the best player in the world? And did I ever think that I could win a Grand Slam? You know what, before you do it, you don't know. It's a dream. You know, so I had this dream of being the best player in the world.
Did you ever stop believing?
Oh no, you always have to believe it. I always believed that I could be the best player in the world. I always believed that I could win a Grand Slam. And those were my goals, and so I worked towards those goals. But you know what? You can do one of two things. You can believe that you can be one of the best, or you can believe, I think I can be an average player. Now, why not believe that you can be one of the best? You know, how old are you? 12 years old. You know, one of the, there's no reason why you shouldn't believe, you know what, I want to be one of the best 12-year-olds in the world. And then you work towards that goal. Or I want to be one of the best in the 14 and unders. And you work towards that goal. So always have a goal, always have a dream, and keep believing in that dream. And then someday, you'll achieve it, and even if you don't, you'll have fun trying. Okay? Got one more back there, I think.
What was not enough to become top 10 player after all the effort you have done? Maybe it's too personal if you don't want to say.
No, I heard you said, why didn't I become top 10?
Yeah. So what's the...
Again, there's one reason. Pete Sampras.
9 places for 3.
No, and when I say that kind of jokingly, but it's honest. There was one year I lost in the round of 16 to Pete Sampras at the Australian Open. I lost to him in the finals of the Sony Ericsson. I lost to him in the round of 16 at the French Open. And I lost to him in the semifinals of Lyon, France. If I had won any of those matches, I would have been top 10. So yes, it was his fault. It was not my fault. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Good luck this year. Thank you.